Hey, it's Nikki, and today's episode is a special series called In the Loop, Communicating for Maximum Leadership Impact with my friends from Borshoff. I am a huge fan of the work Borshoff does to advance internal communication, and so happy that they have joined Gut Plus Science for a special series. Get ready for internal communication inspiration. There's so many nuggets of wisdom here.
Hey, it's Katherine Coble, your host for a very special Gut Plus Science series called In the Loop, Communicating for Maximum Leadership Impact. Our big goal is to help leaders become better communicators, because communication is your best tool for leading well. Let's go ahead and dive into this month's topic. Well, today I am very excited to have a very, very special guest with me. It's my husband, my friend, my business coach, and my collaborator in all things leadership development, Craig Coble.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, Craig is the founder and chief advisor of Concentric Leadership Group, which is a peer advisory group for faith-forward leaders. And it's actually a group that I've been a part of for a while now. And it's, I would say, the highlight of my month to get together with my peer group.
That's great.
Yeah.
A day with me, and it's the highlight of your month.
Yeah. So thanks for being here, Craig. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about being here. I've been waiting for an invitation. It's been nearly a year now, podcast after podcast, guest after guest, and finally I get the call. That's fantastic. And I'm really excited to talk about one of our favorite things that we get to do. We look forward to doing it together every year, and that's the Global Leadership Summit.
Yeah, we do. We do. So I'm so sorry it's taken me over a year to have you on. My apologies. But yes, the Global Leadership Summit is something we look forward to every year. I think we first started doing this probably more than a decade ago, right? We were doing the live stream. They did a live stream all over the world.
I think I found a book recently that was dated 2013.
Oh, wow.
A Global Leadership book, yeah.
Yeah. But in about 2019, we decided we were going to go to Chicago and be a part of the live studio audience.
Yeah, it changes everything.
It really does. The energy is so amazing. And we have found so much value in what the leadership speakers have spoken to every year. And so that's really what we want to do today, is just talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, every year the speakers just bring this, these new ideas, and then just these reminders of things that leaders should know and should be doing, and really kind of what leadership boils down to on the most basic level. Every year it seems like they talk about listening well and caring deeply, and then just creating environments where people can really reach their full potential.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of the highlights of my year every year. And so I thought today what we could do is just do a little bit of a roundup of some of the things that we heard, some of the lessons that we learned at the 2025 conference, which we just went to recently.
Yeah.
And the first person who opens up the show is a guy named Craig Groeschel.
Yeah.
So tell us, Craig, a little bit about who is Craig and what did you take away from him?
Oh, yeah. Craig Groeschel. Craig is known as a leader of leaders. I mean, this guy, he talks the talk, he walks the walk. He really sets the tone for the leadership conference every year as kind of that opening keynote speaker. And you might remember Craig began the talk this year by saying, "What if I told you everything you think makes a great leader is probably wrong?" That's a great way to start a leadership conference, isn't it? He said most people kind of imagine this extraordinary leader, this version of someone who has great courage, who can articulate these big ideas and this audacious vision. He kind of really talked about a guy like William Wallace from Braveheart, stand on a hill going, freedom, But Craig said, basically, great leadership isn't flashy or hyped. Great leadership is actually what he called boring. He said, you don't have to be the greatest leader or the best leader. You just have to be consistent.
Yeah, that's great.
He gave this mathematical formula to illustrate that point. Do you remember the mathematical formula?
Yeah, what was that about?
Yeah, it was really interesting. He said consistency plus faithfulness multiplied by time equals lasting impact. And here's how that formula works. He said, if you consistently focus on the right inputs, those actionable items, and faithfully push back on the desire for the quick action or the instant results, the right outcomes eventually follow. And he gave this simple explanation. He said, because small habits change things, right? Certain rhythms that are repeated again and again, they impact not only our lives, but our relationships and our leadership. Consistently working on things and taking action, it closes the gap between good intentions and what the outcome really is.
Yeah, that makes me think, of course, about my marathon training in past years, where it's really not about trying to be the fastest. It's really just about taking time, being consistent, building on your base, enduring, and trying to get a little bit better over time.
Yeah, a little better every day, a little bit better every day. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So another speaker that we heard was Juliet Funt. And Juliet is just one of our favorites. We've seen her a couple different times. She's funny. She's always dropping all kinds of great ideas. Tell us a little bit about who she is and what some of the key takeaways were that you had from her.
Yeah, I love Juliet Funt. She's the founder and CEO of an organization that focuses on high performance for executives and leaders. And this year, she talked about some ideas from her latest book called A Minute to Think. And she reminded leaders that it's really easy to get distracted by all the things that we can do and to lose sight of the things that only leaders should do. She gave us some really simple steps for eliminating some of that unnecessary stuff. Now, this goes beyond the idea of prioritizing work or just organizing your ideas, some of the more traditional methods that we've been taught in the past. And Juliet talked about this method of measuring how much of your time is actually going to what she calls high value work. And she kind of defines high value work as only the things the leader should do, right?
Right.
And I think one of the most powerful things she said during her presentation was, we must recognize the need to reduce the amount of work we do. And here's why. Our time is not infinite, but the work is. There will always be more things to do, but we can't add any more time to our days. And so, she was really, she brought a challenging message because every leader wants to do more, accomplish more, grow more. So it was a fantastic talk.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the thing I always love about Juliet is she's always reminding us to edit our thinking, to edit what we focus on as leaders. And it's just such an important skill set to have because, like you said, we could focus on 100 things, but the more we can stay focused, you can't focus on 100 things. You can only focus on a few things. We can try to do many, many things, but when we do get that focus, that's when we can really make some true progress. So I love that.
Yeah, fantastic. And one of the speakers that was new this year was a young lady named Erica Dewan. Now, Erica focused very specifically on some communication strategies for the 21st century because things have changed, especially in the last 5 to 6 years. So, Kat, tell us what you took away from Erica's talk.
Yeah, I loved what Erica had to say about this idea of what she called connectional intelligence. You know, we all know how much the world has changed, particularly since COVID. There's much more remote, more hybrid type of work. And for knowledge workers, for office workers, we're just doing a lot more digitally than we ever did before.
Oh, yeah, with text and chat and
absolutely
and video calls. Yeah.
Definitely. And so whenever we're doing all of that digital communication, and also keep in mind, some of that is what we call synchronous, and some of it is asynchronous, meaning we're doing it real time, synchronous, versus, you send an email, that's asynchronous because someone gets it and then they read it on a different timeline than when you sent it. And so all of those things together kind of create this opportunity for many, many misconnections, miscommunications. And so she actually provided quite a number of tips and thoughts on how to connect intelligently. And I just loved, there were some particular gems that I really took away that I wanted to share. So one of them was, she said, reading messages carefully is the new listening. And I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, that really gets to the heart of trying to make sure that you interpret well, right?
Absolutely.
It's looking at the content and not trying to maybe assess any sort of emotion or read between the lines and making sure that you're reading the words correctly.
Right. So often when we're in such a hurry and we're distracted, we look at something and we think it says one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but if we go back, we see a little bit more color, a little bit more depth. But I think the second point she made goes right along with that. And I thought that one was really fascinating. And she said, writing clearly is the new empathy.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious what you think about that one. Writing clearly is the new empathy.
Yeah. Well, because I'm not really equipped with a lot of empathy, I think maybe I'll let you explain that one. Nobody has ever accused me of being too empathetic. So you tell us what it means.
Well, I think this again gets back to being other oriented,
Sure.
right? If you are writing a message to someone and you are keeping that person in mind, not just what you want to say, but you are really taking the time to think about where they're coming from, what it is that you're asking of them, or what you want to make sure they know. And you spend some time crafting your message and then going back, right? Even though we have things like autocorrect, sometimes autocorrect actually gets us in trouble.
Yes.
But we just need to be as clear as we can, providing the right detail at the right time. Verbose, it just means clarity around ideas, choosing the right words. Those are important things for the other person because what's missing in that communication is body language. We're missing tone.
Yeah.
We're missing feedback.
Sure.
And so whenever we can take the time to be as clear as possible in our communication, in our written communication, it's really going to help that other person who's receiving that message.
That's really good. Yeah, that's so important in the modern era that we're in. Yeah,
absolutely.
Good.
So one thing that I really hope to dive into in more detail here soon is I'm going to get into her book. It's called Digital Body Language. And I'm pretty excited to see all the other things that she has to talk about, given my interest in communications.
Sure, yeah.
And I think there's probably even a full podcast episode all around digital body language somewhere in the future.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a needed skill right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going away. It's going to change anytime soon.
Definitely. Okay, so the next speaker that I'm going to mention here is one that I think was a favorite of yours at the conference.
Sure.
And it was Nick Saban. He's the 7-time national championship winning coach and a Hall of Famer at the University of Alabama. And he did a bit more of an interview style at the conference. What were some of the takeaways that you had from Coach Saban?
Yeah, I loved hearing Coach Saban's stories. He talked a lot about his coaching days and his relationships with his players, and really kind of most of all, even his relationship with his wife, Miss Terry. And man, there's so many great stories. But I think my big takeaway from the interview with Coach Saban was really his take on two different types of leadership. And that type one, the first type, he said, was the transactional leader. And this is the kind of person who's very results oriented. They're always looking for the win. And you might think that that's the kind of guy you would want running your football program, right? The kind of guy who would lead your team to 7 national championships. But Coach Saban was not that kind of leader. He was not a transactional leader. He said he learned very early on to be a transformational leader. And the transformational leader is really focused more on making sure that, in this case, making sure his players were learners. Even in the negative experiences, he wanted his players to figure out what it was they needed to learn in that negative experience that would make them better. And he made sure to set goals for his team and to share vision and all the things that great leaders do. Then he led and inspired his players to accomplish the vision. He would tell his players every day, this is one of my favorite lines, stay focused on controlling the things you can, and every day make yourself and your teammates better. I mean, that's a fantastic leader right there. And you don't have to be leading a college football team to say that. You can say that in your office with your leadership team, with the folks who are, forward facing with customers or whatever it is, right? Focus on controlling the things you can control, and every day make yourself and your teammates better.
Yeah. So, the thing that I really took away from that whole conversation with Coach Saban was that a good leader really takes the time, like you said, to help people learn from the things maybe that didn't go so well.
Sure.
But what I loved about that was the idea that he really created some psychological safety in the environment. He wasn't easy. He was
Mhm.
hard. He
Yeah.
was, very demanding of what he got from his players, but he made sure that they had the opportunity to feel that they could dissect and really look back, and they didn't have to worry about, being reprimanded for that. They had the opportunity to learn.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So good.
Yeah, he had high expectations. He set high standards, but he gave his guys an opportunity to learn from the negative experiences. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, Kat. The next speaker that we heard was really a true legend, John Maxwell.
Right.
And a lot of listeners have probably heard of John Maxwell, but for those who haven't, won't you tell us about him and what you learned from his message at the GLS?
Yeah, man, John Maxwell, he is what I would call the father of all leadership development. He's been around for decades and decades. He has written actually more than 100 books
Yeah.
on leadership. And those books, of course, have sold tens of millions of copies. And they're actually translated into, I think about 50 different languages
That's
all across the
incredible.
world.
Yeah.
So clearly he's got a lot of influence. And really, that word influence is the first thing I always think of when I think of John Maxwell. He's constantly talking about the idea of leadership being influence.
Mhm.
It's not about your title. It's not about power. It's really about having influence with your circle of people. So a single mom can be a leader. A teacher can be a leader. A teenager can be a leader among their friends. And it really just has to do with that fact that they have that influence.
Yeah, everybody has influence with someone.
Right.
And so everyone is a leader, and they need to learn how to develop those leadership skills inside them to influence people well.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes down to it, I think really a big factor that John is always trying to teach about is this idea of caring well to lead well. He's really focused on the relationship between the leader and the people who are the followers. And he's just always encouraging leaders to make personal connections. That doesn't mean being best friends with the people that you lead, but it does mean knowing them as individuals and understanding where they're coming from, knowing what their strengths are, and caring about the things that they care about so that you can make a better connection.
Yeah, he often talks about it, and in some of his books even writes about the fact that when people know that they're cared for and known deeply, they will actually give you permission to lead them, right? So you're not leading out of a position because you're the boss. You're leading because they trust you and you've done the work to build that trust, and they give you permission then to become their leader.
Right. That's a great way to look at it. In recent years, John has been focusing on this idea of leadership legacy, and that's really what he focused on at the conference this time around. He was just encouraging leaders to think about their legacy. And when we think about our legacy as leaders, it's really not about our success. It's really more about what we did to bring significance into the world. And I think that the key factor in that is, again, it's that other orientation.
Sure.
We're looking to build other leaders. We're looking to help bring other people along with us. And when we do that as leaders, we actually find some significance that we would never get just in our success.
Right. Yeah, you can build a successful company. He has another line he uses, but success without succession is actually failure, And so without bringing other people along to help fill the gaps when you're gone, then you haven't done a great job as a leader, even if you build a successful company, right? So leaders who build leaders who can build leaders, that's what John's all about.
Yeah, the generational leadership in many ways.
Well, one of the other speakers at the summit was, I think, probably a favorite of both of ours, but maybe even more for you. But John Acuff is the guy. So what big ideas did you hear from John this year?
Oh my gosh. I love John Acuff. He is just so funny. He makes me laugh out loud constantly. And so that's probably one of the main reasons I love him. But the reality is, he just dropped some leadership gold in his conversation at the Global Leadership Summit, too. His latest book is called All It Takes is a Goal. And he has been talking a lot lately about the idea of procrastination and also potential. And a lot of times we aren't reaching our full potential because of procrastination. And so he was actually giving some ideas about how to really push through that and get to the life that you really want.
Yeah.
He even talked a little bit, just to kind of set the scene. He said some surveys recently have said that as many as 96% of people say that they aren't living up to their own potential.
Wow.
And if we recognize that in ourselves, surely it's something that we can move forward with. We can find a way to push through. But a lot of times we get these soundtracks in our head, these almost like a broken record right behind us that is just telling us we can't do something. It's giving us these limiting beliefs. And I think John's big push right now is to help people realize that there is a way to create a new soundtrack. There is a way to get those kinds of ideas out of your head to make room for a new idea that can help you progress to accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, we've got this nagging voice inside our head sometimes that says you're not ready, or you don't know enough, or whatever it is, right? And it just keeps us from moving ahead. It keeps us from, as you said, stepping into new things, or even considering ourselves a leader. So yeah, it's so important that we can get beyond that.
Absolutely. One of the things he said was, procrastination really is just, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
And many times what we're looking for, and we don't even know we're looking for this, is we're looking for permission. I thought that was a really interesting idea. And so he was talking a little bit about the 4 permissions of a leader.
Yeah. Tell us about those.
Yeah. So whenever we feel like we've got permission, we can move forward a lot more successfully. And the 4 permissions that he said we as leaders need are first of all, the permission to dream.
Yeah. So like, what do you want to do, right? To dream about
Exactly.
that, to figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. Come up with that plan of what direction you're going in. And then the second one he talked about was the permission to plan.
So the plan, kind of how you'll do it. Right. Yeah.
The third one that he mentioned was the idea of the permission to do.
Yeah. So with this, you're kind of asking yourself, am I really doing it? Right. Am I really putting action to the plan?
Exactly. And then that last permission being the idea of permission to review.
Yeah. So going back, looking at what's working, what's not working, because it's not enough just to have a plan. Also, you can't let things run on autopilot. So when you create a plan, you have to work the plan, and you have to tweak the plan to make sure that the plan's really working, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. A plan is just a guideline. It's never something that's going to get you all the way there. Plans always change, and that's okay. But I also loved this other idea that he shared was that paper shrinks fear. And what I loved about that was basically what he was saying was when you put to paper your ideas, when you write that plan out, when you put it down and document it, that helps you really work through the possibilities. And it really takes away the sting of that fear of, am I good enough? Can I really do this? Those are the kinds of things that putting it down on paper are just really going to help you work through.
Yeah, I always encourage leaders to move the ideas that are in their head down to the pen and paper, because a lot of times things change. I don't know how that happens, but from the thought process to the actual writing process, and I even suggest writing it out longhand, pen and paper style, as opposed to keyboard. But there's just something that changes in our thought process. And oftentimes what we think we're going to write ends up being different when we actually write it on the page. And it makes a big difference for sure.
Yeah, I agree. This is something we tell our clients all the time whenever we're working through messaging. Being prepared ahead of time, taking the time to think through what it is that you want to say and putting it down on paper. Even if you've said these things 100 times before and you're very comfortable with your message, taking that time to write it down really helps you refine your thinking and just build the confidence that you need to deliver it well.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So I know this was a bit of a lightning round today. We
sure.
really covered quite a few speakers, quite a few topics.
Yeah, and really only scratched the surface. I mean, there were 13 speakers at this 2-day conference. So we just talked about a handful.
Right, absolutely. And we'll be processing that for months to come. So in order to help our listeners, we have put together a handy reference guide that will have links and a little bit of background info on the Global Leadership Summit itself, as well as all of the different authors that we've been talking about today. We'll also have in the show notes a place where you can connect with Greg and or the Concentric Leadership Group on LinkedIn and the Concentric website. So you can learn a little bit more about that as well. So as we wrap up today, I think there's really kind of one big idea that you and I have talked about. Two ideas, two words that really stuck out for us in terms of leadership, because it can be overwhelming, right? There's so many things, and so many times leaders want to put into place the things that they've heard from other leaders. But my advice to them is don't. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think when you look at great leaders, you can see a pattern develop. It really, great leadership focuses on two things, just two things: being intentional and being relational. The great leaders had a plan, and they worked the plan, and they adjusted the plan, but they were intentional about moving forward. And then secondly, they were deeply relational. They created connections with the people who worked with them, the people who they served. And over in history, we see that great leaders were deeply intentional and deeply relational. And I think that's the most important part. That's the key to leadership.
Completely agree. Such good stuff. Well, thank you so much for joining us today,
thanks
Greg.
for having me.
Yeah.
It's been fun. We should do this again in another year or so.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks for listening.
We just left the world a little bit better. Now, go do something with it.